November the 2nd, 1944. A P-51 Mustang pilot crashes deep behind enemy lines in Czechoslovakia, surrounded, outnumbered, no way out. But instead of surrendering, he walks onto a Nazi airfield in the dead of night, climbs into an enemy fighter he's never flown before, and steals it. This is the legendary story of Bruce Carr, the pilot who turned Germany's own weapon against them. Bruce Carr wasn't your average pilot. At just 20 years old, he had already earned a reputation as one of the most fearless fighters in the 354th Fighter Group. On November the 2nd, 1944, he took off from his base in France on what seemed like a routine combat mission, flying his beloved P-51 Mustang, Angel's playmate, deep into German-occupied territory over Czechoslovakia. His mission: strafe enemy ground targets and disrupt supply lines. But this mission would be anything but routine. Everything changed in an instant. As Carr dove low to attack German ground positions, his Mustang was hit by anti-aircraft fire. Flames erupted from the engine. The controls went dead. With smoke filling the cockpit and altitude dropping fast, Carr had only seconds to make a life-or-death decision. He pulled the canopy release, unbuckled his harness, and bailed out, tumbling through the freezing November sky at 300 miles per hour. His parachute opened just in time. As he floated down, he watched his beloved Mustang spiral into the ground and explode in a ball of fire. Carr hit the ground hard in the middle of enemy territory. He was alone, miles from friendly lines, with no radio, limited supplies, and winter closing in fast. German patrols would be searching for him within minutes. Every survival manual said the same thing: hide, evade, and eventually surrender. Prisoner of war camps were brutal, but at least you'd survive. But Bruce Carr wasn't the type to sit around waiting to be captured. As darkness fell, he began moving through the forest, and then he spotted something that would change everything. Through the trees, Carr saw lights. A Luftwaffe airfield, active, heavily guarded, and filled with German fighter planes. Most pilots would have avoided it like the plague, but Carr saw something different. He saw a way home. As night fell completely, he watched from the shadows. German mechanics were servicing a Focke-Wulf FW-190, one of Germany's deadliest fighters. They fueled it, checked the guns, and then they walked away. The aircraft sat there on the tarmac, fully fueled, ready to fly, and completely unguarded. What Bruce Carr was thinking about was absolutely insane. He had never flown a German fighter. He didn't speak German. He had no idea how to start the engine, operate the controls, or even get the landing gear up. And even if he somehow got it airborne, he'd have to fly through German anti-aircraft fire, navigate in the dark without maps, cross the front lines, and then convince Allied gunners not to shoot him down. The odds of success? Nearly zero. The odds of dying? Almost certain. But to Bruce Carr, dying while trying to escape was better than rotting in a prison camp for years. Just before dawn, Carr made his move. Staying low in the shadows, he crept across the airfield toward the FW-190. His heart pounded. Every footstep felt like thunder. Guards were patrolling nearby. One wrong move, one sound, and it was over. He reached the aircraft and pulled himself up into the cockpit. Inside, everything was alien. Gauges labeled in German, switches he didn't recognize, a layout completely different from his Mustang. He had no manual, no instructor, no time. He just started flipping switches and pulling levers, trying to figure out how to start the engine. Then, the engine coughed, sputtered, and roared to life. Instantly, shouts erupted across the airfield. German soldiers were running toward him, guns raised. Carr shoved the throttle forward, and the FW-190 lurched across the tarmac. Carr barely cleared the runway before bullets started flying. German machine gun fire tore through the air around him. He pulled back on the stick and climbed, but not too high. He stayed low, hugging the terrain at treetop level, racing through the dawn at over 300 miles per hour. Every second felt like an eternity. Then came the worst part, the front lines. As he approached Allied territory, German flak guns opened up, filling the sky with exploding shells. He weaved and dove, the aircraft shaking from near misses, and then he crossed the line, straight into Allied airspace. But now he was flying a German fighter, with German markings. Allied anti-aircraft gunners saw an enemy plane and opened fire. Tracer rounds streaked past his canopy. He was being shot at by both sides. Carr spotted his home base in France and dove toward it. But there was one final problem. He couldn't figure out how to lower the landing gear. He tried every switch, every lever. Nothing worked. He was out of time and out of options. With fuel running low, he lined up for a belly landing, no gear, full speed, on a captured enemy fighter. The FW-190 hit the runway hard, screeching and sparking as metal scraped across concrete. It slid hundreds of feet before finally grinding to a stop. American soldiers swarmed the aircraft, guns drawn, ready to capture or kill the German pilot inside. And then Bruce Carr pulled off his helmet, grinned, and said, "Thanks, Luftwaffe." Bruce Carr's story spread like wildfire through the Allied forces. A pilot shot down behind enemy lines who didn't surrender, but stole an enemy fighter and flew it home. It became one of the most legendary tales of World War II. Carr went on to become one of America's top aces, credited with 15 aerial victories. On April 2, 1945, he shot down 5 enemy aircraft in a single day, earning him the Distinguished Service Cross. He flew in 3 wars, World War II, Korea, and Vietnam, completing over 500 combat missions before retiring as a colonel in 1973. Bruce Carr proved that sometimes courage isn't about following orders. It's about doing the impossible when there's no other choice. He turned his enemy's greatest weapon into his ticket home, and that's why his story will never be forgotten. If you enjoyed this incredible true story, hit that subscribe button and check out more forgotten heroes of WWII on our channel. What would you have done in Bruce Carr's situation? Let me know in the comments below.